Hello, everybody. Lamo here. Thank you for joining me. And today I have my very first interviewee. I don't know if I worded it correctly. So it's the original Yellow Wiggle, Greg Page. Greg, how are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here. Oh, yeah, the little thing.
Yeah, got to do that, mate. Yeah, no, I'm really well, thanks, Lamo. Thanks for having me.
It's great because we've met before on Zoom 4 years ago. But I just want to say thank you for promoting my short film last year. You know, it's not every day your idol promotes your work for you.
Well, I got to say that was an incredible short film, Lamo. It was really well put together. Your story is an amazing one. Yeah, and I just felt that people need to see your work and hear your story.
Of course. And here we are right now, Zooming. And if you guys know, I've been a big Wiggles fan for 22 years. And having Greg as my first interview is like, wow, it just means the world to me.
Well, I noticed you
Um,
wear yellow in honor of being the yellow wiggle, right?
yeah, it's funny because I performed with the Wiggles last year when they were in Canada, and I had my own Wiggles shirt from like
Ah,
a couple years ago, and surprisingly, it still fits.
oh, wow. Well, that's good. Yeah, my skivvy doesn't fit anymore, unfortunately. I need to lose a bit of weight to
Yeah,
get back in that one.
yeah. But today I have some questions for Greg. We're gonna go through his Wiggles journey. So why don't we jump right into it?
Yep, let's.
All right. So my first question to you, Greg, is that what inspired you to become part of the Wiggles, and did you ever imagine it would have such a global impact?
Well, I'm going to answer the second part first and say no, we never, when we started, we didn't imagine what impact it would have, let alone the kind of impact that it did. And really, what inspired us to create the Wiggles was our love of children's entertainment or teaching, but combining that with music. So Murray, Anthony, and myself were studying teaching at early childhood college at university, and we were all musicians. Anthony had been studying, like not as part of the course, but just out of interest. He'd been studying, listening to a lot of children's music. So particularly, I think it's Sharon, Lois, and Bram from over there in
Yes,
Canada.
yeah, they're really big in Canada. Like I
Yes.
remember like when I was in preschool, right? They used to have the CD, their greatest hits. I remember like all the songs from there. So I assume that's where one of your musical influences were.
Yeah, yeah, and but also Rafi, or
Raffi,
Rafi.
yeah.
Yeah, Rafi. So
Ring, 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 banana phone.
okay, I don't know that one, but Anthony would know it because he'd listened to all of this stuff and he'd really studied it, and he combined what he'd been listening to with what we'd learned about how children think and how to teach children. So he came up with the idea of creating an album of songs for children, and that was really our first. The very first thing that we did was just a demo, and we thought it was only going to be a demo. Um, and it was very crudely recorded, but we presented it to the ABC here in Australia, which is the equivalent of, I guess, do you have the Canadian Broadcasting
It's
Company
called,
or corporate?
yeah, CBC. That's the company that distributed my short film.
Ah, right. Okay, well, there you go. So you know all about the public broadcasting system. So we gave this tape to the ABC here, and they just said, no, we'll release it as it is. So we didn't get a chance to re-record anything. So that first CD or album that we recorded went out as it was as a demo. But it was received really well by the community, and ABC loved it, and that was really what kickstarted our career.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that must have been an incredible journey, like this one album, and already like so many people are buying it. And that was
Yeah.
before you guys even had the skivvies. Like I believe you had like a blue patent.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad looking shirt, that first one. It
Ah,
was like a dotted shirt or something, I think. I can't really remember, but yeah, I meant to keep
yeah.
it over all these years, but I've lost it now. I don't know where it ended up.
I don't know if you saw this post, but Anthony posted a couple years ago he had the original shirt from 1991 on the Wiggles Instagram.
He's got his one, I think. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the star. I think it was stars. It's sort of a beige coloured shirt with white stars. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you joined the group, how did you get into like the music business, and what inspired you to join?
Well, I guess it was really, it's a funny story, right? Because from a very young age, I'd loved music, and I kind of always felt that I wanted to be a performer. I'd been in bands through my teenage years, so as a teenager, I'd been in a couple of bands, and I was a fan of the Cockroaches, which was Anthony and Jeff's band that they had here in
Yes,
Australia.
back in the 80s, you were a
Yeah,
roadie.
yes. Well, that's how I started with them, but I started as a fan before that. Um, and it was really once I started working for them as a roadie that Anthony said to me, and I was still at high school at this point in time. Anthony said to me, "What do you want to do when you leave school?" I said, "Well, I want to be a roadie." And he said, "You don't want to be a roadie?" I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Greg, you don't want to be lugging equipment upstairs at the age of 50." He said, "Is there anything else that you'd like to do?" And I thought, well, I'm not going to be a professional performer, is what I thought. So if there is some way I can use my music that I love in my career path, then I would prefer to do that. And I thought back to when I was at school and the teachers that would bring a guitar into the classroom. That really made a big difference to me in terms of my enjoyment about learning. So I thought, okay, if I could become a teacher and use music in teaching, and that's when Anthony said, well, why don't you study early childhood teaching? And I went out to the university where he was studying at because he was already in first or second year at that point in time. Um, he would have been second year at that time, I think. So I went out to the university, had a look around, and I thought, yeah, this is probably the best thing that I could do is to use music in teaching. So I guess when Anthony then said, let's combine what we know about teaching with music and create something, I thought, what a great opportunity that was. But no, we had no idea that it would actually become anything, let alone become as big as it did. So it was an amazing journey.
Wow. And I believe the university you went to was Macquarie University.
Yeah, Macquarie University, that's right.
So apparently, correct me if I'm wrong, when you, Murray, and Anthony went to school, apparently there was mostly female than there were males at the school.
Oh, there was, I think, 300 girls and 5 guys. It was just,
Dang.
and I hope the numbers have sort of changed a little bit now. But I reckon if you went 10 years back before we were at university, I reckon it would have been almost 100% female. As I think
Yeah.
about my teachers through, and I'm going back a long time before you were born, Lamo, but when I was a kid, um, going through junior school, what we call primary school, all of my teachers were um, female. It was very rare that there were male teachers. So for there to be five in a group of 300 was a good advancement. But I hope now that, I'd love to see it 50-50, but I don't know that it is, particularly in
Like,
early childhood.
yeah, I mean, like when I was in school, I mean, I mostly had like female teachers. For primary school, we called it elementary school. So from
Yeah.
like kindergarten to grade eight.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember I only had one male teacher in the first grade, but the rest of them were like females. But when I got to
Yeah.
high school, it's different because you go to like different periods, like one, two, three, sorry, one, two, lunch, three, four, and then end. And I had male teachers, but like mostly the ratio of teachers nowadays, and I agree with you, are mostly females. And
Yeah,
I
it
was
is
born in
unfortunate.
2002.
Yeah, so you're very young. Um, so I'd actually I actually left the Wiggles only 4 years after you were born. So you were four,
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, when I left.
and
Yeah.
and you came back in 2012. I remember I got a photo with you. Back then, you didn't know who I was.
No. So where was that photo taken, Lamo? Where was that?
Okay, so technically, you saw it, right? And yeah, so technically, you. Oh, go ahead.
No, where were we when we had the photo? Because I can't.
So
I'm
tech,
trying to remember Canada.
so technically, you guys were in Hamilton doing the
Hamilton.
celebration tour, and
Mm.
I so we couldn't get tickets to the Toronto show, so we decided to see the show in Hamilton, where my older cousin took me and my younger sister. And I remember I made a sign saying, "Welcome back, Greg. Can I please have a photo with you?" I'm like, I'm walking in there, right, and saying, "Oh, am I going to get a photo with Greg? What are the odds?" And then you were collecting roses for the audience. That you had like the V skivvy.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
updated one. It was like the final tour, and
Yes.
I'm like, oh, this is Greg's final tour. I really hope I snag a photo with him. And you were like walking up the aisle, and I was like, there he is, there he is. And I was like, what do I do? What do I do? So you were walking. I was like, hey, Greg. And I was like, hey, Greg, can I ask you something? So you stopped, right? And you were like this. No, you were like saying, like, you know what I mean, right?
I'm a big
Uh,
guy. I'm 6'4".
I was so small in that photo. and
I'm
uh,
sure
and
you've
I was
grown a
like,
bit now, though. I'm sure you're a bit bigger now, mate.
I'm 5'8", but I'll take that as a compliment. And technically, I was like, I was smiling, right? I had a huge grin, and I was like, "Can I have a photo with you?" And you were just like, "All right, quickly." And I was like, "Yes." So I was like saying, excuse me," and then that's when you took the photo with me. And I remember after the photo, I gave you a handshake, and I gotta say, Greg, you have like quite a grip.
Well, thank you.
And I
But you
had
know,
very small, and I had like very
yeah.
small hands.
Well, particularly if you're only 14 at the time, or you would
I
have
was
been 10.
10. I
10.
was
Oh my gosh,
10.
yes, no wonder. Yeah, of course. Well, of course, your memory is going to be that I had a very strong handshake if you were 10. But yeah, I hope I didn't hurt you, Lamo.
No, 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 no.
Good.
I was happy because and I was like, that's, and then when the show ended, that's it. You, Murray, and Jeff took your final bow, and I was in tears, man. I was like,
Oh,
that's it. The OG Wiggles, no more.
yeah.
I mean, you guys still do reunion tours, but it would be so great if you guys did a reunion tour in Canada. So,
I'd love that.
maybe since I did Taba with the current Wiggles, would it be great if we did Taba with the OGs?
Yes, that would be good. Yeah. Where it all began with Tabanaba back in, gosh, what year would that have
Two,
been? What
two,
year did we
two
do
thousand,
Tabanaba?
2000. It was like my mom's favorite song out of all. We would just
Yeah.
do the actions. Brings
Yeah.
me. I always get emotional whenever I
Yeah.
hear that song.
Wow.
But hopefully, fingers crossed for that North American OG reunion
I hope
tour.
so. I'm crossing my
All right,
fingers too.
and it would be great to get a photo with you and the other OG Wiggle. It'd be like childhood memory unlocked. But
Yeah.
who knows?
I hope so, mate.
I hope so too. All right. So, to my second question, what do you think has been the key to the Wiggles' longevity? Have I pronounced it right?
Yeah.
Longe- Longevity and continued success.
I really think it comes down to the fact that everything, almost everything the Wiggles do, or everything that the Wiggles does, is based on early childhood foundational principles.
Hmm.
And that means approaching it from the point of view of the child, not from an adult perspective and what the adult or the performer wants to get out of the experience. And I know that that was very much the case when I was part of the group, and I'm sure it still is, and that's probably why they're still going now. 33 years after we began? Anthony is astounding the way that he puts his passion and dedication into the group, and the fact that
Musical
he's still on
genius.
stage. Oh, absolute genius! And there's no doubt that the Wiggles would not have happened without Anthony. He was the spark that created the Wiggles.
Hmm. Yeah, I get it. Continuity, because
Yeah,
I know mostly some bands wear different outfits. Like for example, we had the Beatles, right? They were mop tops, wearing the suits, and then there was Sergeant Pepper, and then there was like Abbey Road. But for you guys, I know you guys had the Patents, but then you guys switched to the skivvies. You had yellow, Anto was blue, Murray was red, Jeff was purple, and apparently, you and Anthony had a race while looking for skivvies.
yeah, we did, and I was too slow to get the blue one. he,
He's
he
like
raced.
he's like the road runner.
Yeah, he just he might have
But
maybe pushed me out of the way or something. I don't know, but he got there first.
youngins, am I right?
Sorry.
Youngins, am I right?
Yeah. So yeah, he was. So Anthony's 9 years older than me, but yeah, he could still run faster than me back then. I don't know if we had a race now. I don't know who'd win. Not sure.
Who knows? Um, and that also brings me to my third question. So now we all know that bands have their challenges, right? I know you had your challenges where you were like during your time with the Wiggles, right? You were you had orthostatic intolerance where you would collapse on stage, and and Sam had to like fill in for you. And well, when it got to I think when you guys were touring North America in 2006, you had to go back to Australia to like not partake in this tour because you had to know what's going on. And then you had orthostatic intolerance, and then you made a video saying that you will no longer be performing with the Wiggles and that Sam will be taking over. That's probably one of the challenge. And well, the 2020 challenge, well, we all know what happened. And thank God you're still with us, Greg. Thank God.
Yeah, thanks, Lamo. Yeah, look, I'm incredibly fortunate, with that challenge. But I think just to generally talk about challenges, I think we all have challenges in life in different ways, right? So wherever we have relationships with people, there's always challenges. So with the Wiggles, most of the time we're on the same page, like the four Wiggles, because we all had the same vision and the same fundamental principles underlying how we would achieve that. But sometimes there would be differences in opinion about how we might achieve certain things or how we do different things. And I think that did create tension amongst the group at times. But, we were very lucky that we were able to, as mates, bring each other back down to ground a lot of the time when we had differences of opinion. So, yes, we had our challenges, and certainly building the band or the brand to the point where we were able to tour the world. Like we were trying to tackle the US and the UK at the same time at one point. I think it was, 1999. I think we were doing both the US and the UK. And that was hard because the UK was very expensive to tour back then.
Oh
Probably still,
man, how
yeah,
many
because they're,
pounds?
yeah, they're
How many?
pounds, yeah. Yeah, so that was very hard. Whilst we were also trying to break it into the US ended up becoming a lot more successful for us, and that became where we sort of shifted our focus, because we would spend 3 months a year there in the north of America, touring, Canada and the US. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, it was challenging because then that meant you were spending time away from home, so time away
yeah.
from your family. So there was lots of challenges in lots of ways, but I think it's stuff that most people at work would probably find. In the workplace, you have disagreements with people that you have to work with. You have time away from your family. You have to travel. You work long hours. You're not there when you want to be. There's so many
I
things like
I feel that because I have a part-time job at the theater while balancing school, while balancing college full time. It's not fun.
no, it's hard, isn't it? Life is hard, right? And you know this, Lamo. Life is
Yeah,
hard. It has its challenges. But the thing is, we have to remember that there's always a new day. And how
of
we approach
course.
that new day really affects the outcome at the end of that next day. So I think for people that are listening, if you approach life as, it's a road, it's a bumpy road, but at the end of the road, there's a good outcome there if you take the right path, and your approach to each day will help you take the right path.
And hopefully you see a rainbow with Wiggles colors.
I hope so. That's right, mate.
But my question to you is that how were you able to overcome all those challenges?
Well, it's not easy. I think, and certainly too, in my personal situation off stage, I had a lot going on as well, with a marriage and kids at home, and that was hard to hold that together. But look, it's very hard, and I guess I did lean on some of the people in the group a bit to talk to. So I think it's important to talk to people. Make sure you talk to people that you trust and can
Hmm.
confide in about your circumstances. Share things, and
Yeah,
and when you're listening to somebody as well, be compassionate, be understanding that we are all human. We all
hmm,
suffer from the same affliction, and that is that we are all born with emotions, and we struggle to
yeah.
deal with those emotions sometimes. It's very hard, but those emotions can affect our thinking, they can affect our behavior. But I think at the end of the day, we have to understand that, we are just a part of the picture, and there's only so much that we can do for others. We have to look after ourselves first. And I think that's where it got to, at the end
Yeah.
of 2006 for me. I was really struggling with my personal life. I was struggling with my health. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I had to make that decision to leave the group. And I think everything happens for a reason. I'm still very fortunate that I have a good relationship with the guys now, and I can still go and perform with them from time to time as the OG Wiggle.
Yeah. but thanks for sharing. Because I've had my challenges too, where I struggled with loneliness.
Mhm.
I've had everyone in my life. Since I don't have much family, I could rely on other people, like my little sister. Um, she's been away in university in Ottawa, and it's been hard, but I still talk to her. She's home right now during her reading week, but she goes back on Sunday. My sister Beef is just incredible. And I also have my best friend Michael, and my other friend Olivia. Um, they're both really great. And my Cineplex colleague, the one who I work in the theater with, Cineplex is a movie theater I work at. My Cineplex colleague Hannah, she's just amazing. She's supportive. We text each other all the time, and whenever something happens at work, she's always there for me. And she's a wholesome person. So if you could give, so maybe like we should give like a shout out to Hannah. If you can say a big hello to Hannah, Michael, and
Uh,
Olivia.
Yeah, Hannah, Michael, and Olivia, thank you for being great people and being there to support Lamo. Friendship is so valuable, and if you're good friends to him, I can only imagine, the type of people that you are. So, well done.
Thank you. Okay, so my fourth question, sorry, my fourth question is the big red car is such a big part of the Wiggles identity. Do you have any memorable or funny behind the scenes stories about it?
Yes, there's lots of funny things that happen with the big red car, and it was always, when we had the actual, yeah, we had different versions of the big red car. Lamo, I'm sure you know, it began as a cardboard cutout,
Yeah,
right? We then had
Jeff was the
a
driver.
Yeah, and we then had different versions. And when we did it, when we used the big version of the car in live shows, it was always a little bit scary because we had to get the car on stage, and we used to bring it out from the floor and drive it up a ramp onto the stage.
Yeah, that must have
And
been
because
really tough.
because I was singing at the time, the guys were always freaking out that I was not going to
Yeah.
be concentrating on the driving, and those ramps weren't all that wide. It was very tricky sometimes to get it up there, and then you'd have to reverse it. Yeah, lots of things happen. But the funniest thing that ever happened with the big red car was when we had an inflatable version of it, and we were
Oh
touring
yeah.
the. Now, I think this was in Glasgow, in Scotland. There was this theatre, and the entrance to the stage was at the back of the stage. It was an opera house or something like that. And opera houses are very different kinds of performance spaces. There's no sort of wings, as we would call it in theatre. So the doors would open to the stage, and people could see right into the backstage area, and you'd be straight on the stage. So we were
Yeah.
waiting backstage with the car blowing up, ready to go, like the fan going in the car. And literally, as the song "Toot Toot Chugga Chugga" started up, it starts off with bum ba da 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 da.
Da 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 da.
As that started up, the fans in the car stopped working, so the inflatable
Oh.
car became deflated. And we literally looked at each other as the doors opened, and we were supposed to walk on stage. And we thought, what do we do? And as any performer knows, the show must go on. We started walking on stage with this big red car that was deflating. And because it was deflating, the whole rubber or whatever it's made out of thing at the front of the car started to fold in under us as we were walking over the top of it, and so we ended up tripping over and falling
Wow.
head over heels as we're singing to
Ouch.
Chugga Chugga. Yeah, it was very funny. We
It
the
deflated.
audience laughed. We all laughed. It was very funny.
It deflated like
Yeah, it deflated and we just tripped over it. Yeah.
because another thing of the big red car, I believe the first time you had it with that big show you guys did in 1997, apparently you weren't too confident in driving and singing at the same time, if I'm correct. So Jeff had to drive it.
That's probably right. Yeah, I don't really remember, but I think you're right. I think I'm sort of recalling that. So I haven't seen that video for a long, long time. So Jeff's driving it, is he?
Well, I saw it in like a promo on the Disney Channel. Apparently, it aired on the Disney Channel. I mean, I
Okay.
don't know. I mean, it did, but the thing is, I didn't see the broadcast because I'm not in Australia.
Yeah. Right.
But
Okay.
but I remember it drove up the ramp because I remember that ramp was pretty steep, and
Mm.
I'm like,
They're
oh,
they're
is the
steep
car
and they're
gonna?
narrow. It's hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't go on the stage, but I was like, is that car gonna
Oh,
tip?
right.
Or
Okay.
I was like, to be honest, I know it was 1997, but nowadays concerts that could be considered like a safety hazard.
Yeah. Eventually, we were able to get a version of the car that we could drive on stage, from the wings on stage, and that we didn't have to go on the floor at all, then, which was much safer. Yeah.
Yes, but yeah, I love the big red car. It's one of my favorite things in the
Yeah.
Wiggles. Um,
Yes.
my, Number five, what has been the most rewarding part of performing for children and families?
Look, I think it's an interesting thing, Lamo, because at the time we didn't really see what was happening at home when people were watching the DVDs and videos. So it wasn't until they came to our live shows that we kind of got a sense of how excited children got and how excited parents were about the connection with the Wiggles. So I think for me, the thing that I cherish most are those memories of doing live performances and seeing the kids in the audience with their parents there. And particularly in North America, when we would do a nighttime show, because we never did nighttime shows in Australia. Like, if we did, it was like the abnormal thing. It might be one or two a year. But in the US and North America, we would do, I think it was a 3 p.m. show and a 7 p.m. show. And at
Oh
the
wow.
7 p.m. show, there were a lot of dads that could come along. So seeing whole families there, that was a novelty for us. But it was great to see because it meant that dad was there, mum was there, the grandparents were there, everybody was there. Whereas in Australia, it was generally the mums with the kids, or the mum and the grandma, maybe the granddad might be there. But yeah, seeing in so I think, to answer your question, the thing that I cherish the most about the Wiggles is the fact that it brought families together, and it gave families something to have in common with the kids. So parents could co-view, they call it co-viewing.
Yeah.
Parents could co-view with the kids and share that same experience.
Wow. Yeah, because I remember, like, the a concert I attended to in Hamilton was 3 o'clock, I believe. Well, was it 2:30? It's hard to remember.
Yeah, something like
But
that. Yeah.
because I'm seeing the Wiggles, the current Wiggles in Hamilton, that same theater, that exact same theater you and I first met in person at 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
And
Right.
I honestly, at least at least when you do shows in the evening, at least all families can get together because they're usually working throughout the day.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So it's great to see the families come together at night time.
Yeah. Now, my next question: how do you think children's entertainment has changed since the Wiggles first started, and where do you see it heading in the future? Because there was like a lot of children's entertainers, like we talked about earlier, like Raffi, Sharon Lois and Bram, and the Hooly Doolies. You know the Hooly Doolies?
Yep.
They're
Yeah, look,
Australian too.
yes, they are. Yeah. And look, I think children's entertainment has changed, and I think the way that it's consumed by children has changed, right? So now YouTube is so popular. You can
Yeah.
put content on there for kids, and they can basically, kids are so smart, they can scroll through and they can click on what they want. They can look at the recommended videos at the side, and they can become the curators of their own experience. Whereas back when we started, it really was in Australia, it was just the ABC on TV, and it's what is called linear television. You don't control the programming, you just turn it on and you watch what's on, one thing after the other. Whereas now, the way that entertainment for kids is consumed, it's very much about the user and what they want to experience. And I think there's so many different brands or products out there now for children that there's so much choice. I think it's a lot harder now for people to have success in this market because it is very competitive. But there's a lot of people doing it and doing it well. So Blippi, Miss Rachel for kids, Miss
The
Rachel for
Wiggles did
Littles.
a collab with Miss Rachel last year
Yeah,
when they were in
yeah.
America.
Yes, and who else? There was somebody else. I don't know. Anyway, there's a number of them out there because the platforms are so accessible for people to make
Sesame
content.
Street. I think
So,
they did. Yeah, they did a
yes,
collab
they
with
did.
Sesame Street.
Yeah, that's right. Now, Sesame Street's been around for like 60 years or just a bit
Six.
more than 60
They've
years.
been around in 1969, a year before the Beatles broke up.
69, is it? So what's that, 50 something years, 54 years. So a long time. So yeah, I think children's entertainment hasn't changed in the sense that it needs to still cater to the child's interest. It's just that now the child is a lot more in control of what they want to experience. So it's a very interesting landscape.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, children, I know, but it's great that the Wiggles are here because apparently now, they're the biggest thing. They're one of the biggest things in children's entertainment. Like I know you guys are still pretty big in Canada. Like each time the Wiggles tickets go on sale, boom, sold out.
Yeah, no, they're huge. It's an incredible story. Yeah.
Especially that time when you guys sold out Madison Square Garden. Like that must have been insane.
Well, yeah, but Lamo, you know the truth about that, right? The truth is that we played in the theatre at Madison
I
Square
know,
Garden.
yeah,
Because
not the big amphitheater,
not the big,
but it
no,
just
not the
a
big. But
just
I
a
was thinking about that. So the theatre held about 5,000 or 6,000 people, and I think we did 12 or 13 shows there. So if you look at how many people came to those shows that we did, we could have actually sold out the arena 3 times. So that's
yeah,
quite incredible when you think about that.
yeah, and just imagine if you played the actual big theater.
Mm. Yeah, that would
That
have been
would
amazing. I would have loved
that
that.
would have
Yeah,
been it, but it's still an achievement.
of course it is. Yeah, yeah, it's an amazing achievement. Yeah.
All right. So, next question. What advice would you give to young performers or creatives who admire your work and want to follow a similar path? So, let's just say, what if somebody wants to become a children's entertainer, not specifically a wiggle, but just to work in children's entertainment in general? What advice would you give?
Um, okay, first of all, I would say make sure you know your audience. Make sure you understand children and how they think and what things appeal to them and why. Then I would say be true to yourself. Right? Be authentic when you're performing. Don't try and be something you're not. Don't try and talk down to children. Talk to them as an equal. And I would say do it because you love it. Don't do it to be successful, because I think if you try and approach it from the success side of things, I think you'll be doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
Success should look like you enjoying what you do. That
Yeah.
success is the stepping stone to then becoming, the other form of success, right? So
Yeah.
you want to make sure that every day you wake up and you do something that you love and that you love what you do. Because when that happens, that is the greatest success you can ever have.
Yeah. I always tell my friends this because my friend Michael is an artist and he uh he loves art. He did a portrait of me one time. And I always tell them, be passionate and stick to what you're good at, because at the end of the day, it's what you love.
Yeah, if you love
And
it, then stick with it. Yep.
because if you're passionate, go for it. Because I wanted to be an actor, but however, it wasn't working out for me, and I found out it's pretty difficult because it's competitive. But I found myself, joining the broadcasting program at my college. I found myself loving editing, post production, because I like getting my hands dirty. And I was like, you know what? This is what I want to be. So I'm gonna stick to it, and I'm gonna work towards my goal.
And I think the key to this is right. So you might have started out on one path and you realized that wasn't really working out the way you wanted it to or hoped it would. You found another path and that's making you happy. And that path may lead to other opportunities or other things where doors open. So
Yeah,
stick with what you love. Yeah,
of course. Was time it may take some time, but it'll all pay off in the end with patience. That's the main thing. Patience.
that's it. Perseverance. Yep.
All right. Home stretch, Greg. We're almost there. We have three more questions to go. Um, this is the fun one. What is your favorite Wiggles song or skit, or if you can't think of one, either favorite Wiggles album, video, TV series? You don't have to answer all of them. And why does it stand out to you? You can just choose one. I just opened up the options.
Yeah, no, that's good. Look, I think I'll answer songs because the songs are the things that I probably connect with the most because that's what we used to do the most. We do live shows all the time. And I think some of my favorite songs are Rockabye Ya Bear, of course. That was one of our very first songs that we ever wrote. And it's such an iconic Wiggles song. Another favorite would be Can You Point Your Fingers and Do the Twist? I think that's just such a fun song to sing. It's got a great groove, and I love Jeff's organ playing on that. You listen to the track. Yeah, and just the groove, the groove that he sets up in there while he's playing.
The 95 version really slaps.
95, that'd be the original one, 95?
Yeah, that's my personal favorite one.
Yeah, I think we might have redone a version of it a little bit.
In 97 for the movie. But 97 will always be iconic. But in my own personal opinion, the 1995 one's my favorite.
Okay, I'll have to go back and listen to that because I think I'm probably remembering the movie one the most. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those two songs. But then, you talk about skits, and I think that there was some funny stuff we did in the Wiggle house when we were filming TV shows. And I don't know which series these were for, but I know there's bloopers of this one scene where we're sitting around the table in the Wiggle house and we're talking about something about Dancing with Wags the dog, and we just could not get the lines out without laughing for some reason. I can't remember what the reason was, but there's just take after take after take of, I can't remember whether it was Anthony saying it or me saying it, but just, we could never get the lines out. And we had a lot of fun filming stuff. It got very stressful sometimes because we would do take after take after take and we'd be running late. That is stressful.
I know. Yeah. I feel that because when I do that with my classmates in college, when we film our assignments, I feel that stress, Greg. You're not alone in this.
Yeah. And, because it was not a cheap exercise to produce TV. So time was money, literally. And we'd often say that. But we did have a great time. There was a lot of bloopers and outtakes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah, my personal favorite Wiggle song is Toot Toot Chugga Chugga Big Red Car. You can never go wrong with that song.
Yeah, it's a good song. Yeah, it's a great one. Yeah.
I mean, would you say it's one of your personal favorites as well?
Yeah, I used to love singing it live. It was a challenge to drive and sing, as we've discussed. But yeah, it's such a great song. It's got a great melody, and I love the fact that it includes all the guys in the car.
Yeah, really the way it was composed was so good because you have Jeff on the organs. When he did the Toot Toot album, you got Dom Lindsay doing the trumpet. You got Tony Henry doing the drums. I think, was it Terry Mario or Anthony who played the guitar on that track?
I don't quite remember. I'm pretty sure Terry was on the album. Yeah, I don't know. I think Terry might have played on that.
But it's my personal favorite album all time from the Wiggles. That album is like, Sgt. Pepper level, in my own personal opinion.
Yeah. So on Toot Toot, what else was on that? Was there like Move Your Arms with Henry? Was that on that one as well?
Move Your Arms like Henry.
Yeah. Okay. So that had the Bath Time song with that's a Rafi song. Yeah. So we had Paul Hester from Crowded House play drums on that album too. So he played on Move Your Arms Like Henry. I think, did he play on Bath Time? I can't remember. He played on anyway, Crowded House were one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, rest in peace to Paul Hester.
Yeah, very sad story, that one. But gee, he was an incredible drummer and he was a lot of fun to be around, which is ironic, but very sad story.
Yeah. Number 9. Now you know how there's lots of older Wiggles fans because, as we touched on before, you guys do reunion shows for the older people.
Yeah, we do.
Now, speaking from my personal experience, I have been like a big Wiggles fan. I guess I can say friend now since, I come to know you guys personally, and I'm really thankful for you guys being in my life. And here we are right now having this wonderful chat.
Yeah. Well, look, I think it's important that people understand that, it is okay to like the Wiggles no matter what age you are, right? At the end of the day, the Wiggles is a band and it creates songs, and those songs create memories. And when you're a young person and you're trying to understand the world, that connection with the Wiggles to that experience of trying to understand the world is a very strong one. And so that stays with people. And we see it all the time. We see people coming to those original Wiggle shows now who are in their 20s. And in some cases, Lamo, I dare to say some of them are in their 30s. which is quite frightening for us. But yeah, because the Wiggles have been around for such a long time, and I
Yeah.
think it's such an honour and a privilege that the Wiggles has played such a big part in these people's lives that they still come along in their 20s or 30s to reflect on that time in their life when they were carefree, when they were younger, when they were learning about the world, when they had their whole life ahead of them and they were just so innocent and pure. And their connection to the Wiggles reminds them of that. So I think it's a really great thing.
You quickly answered the question before I answered it. So thank you for that. But I remember I used to be ridiculed in school just for liking the Wiggles. And I don't know if you saw my TikTok, but the thing is, I used to hide it. Like, I was afraid what people would think of me if they saw me wearing my Wiggles merch. But then I realized that it was just it was just making me sick inside. I'm like, I just can't
Mm,
hide it anymore. So I'm like,
yeah,
who cares what people think if I like the Wiggles? At the end of the day, it's what I like and what makes me happy. And it's like I always say, life isn't worth enjoying if you're not enjoying the things that makes you happy. Because you
that's
shouldn't
right.
live your life making other people happy.
Correct. Yeah, and I think those people that have those issues with other people, that they've really got to get over their own issues, and
Yeah.
it's really more about them than it is about the people that they're ridiculing or they're making fun of. And I think you're right.
Yeah.
You have to stand up for who you are and be authentic about it and really own what you like.
Because I remember on your tweet post, you said like bullies have trouble accepting themselves and therefore have the nerve to put others down. And, you know, because that's true, Greg. Sometimes the bullies are just very insecure about themselves. So they,
Yeah, and that is a problem, and unfortunately, they take it out on others. But yeah, we have to understand that everybody's human. We all make mistakes. We all think about things differently, but we have to be true to ourselves and live life the way that makes us happy.
of course. And this brings me to my final question, and I want you to really, really think about this. What do you think your legacy with the Wiggles means both to you personally and to the fans who have followed you throughout the years?
Hmm. It's interesting you use the word legacy there. I don't really think about it that way. I guess I think about it now in terms of the current Wiggles and the fact that the Wiggles is still going 33 years on. And I'd like to think that in a small way, I contributed to that by being there at the start and helping to form what the Wiggles became. And I think that for me, that's a really proud thing to reflect on. It's kind of funny now, like when the Wiggles asked me to go and do this show with them in a month's time because Sahai and Evie can't be there. I said to Anthony, look, I don't know, I kind of feel a bit out of place because I'm not part of the group anymore. I was, but I'm not. So I think the legacy for me is more about what the Wiggles are doing now than it is about my contribution to it. But then I think about the second part of your question and the question you asked before about people your age and people who are older who still have a connection to the Wiggles that's very strong. And for me, that's probably what I'm most proud of, the fact that we were able to connect with you when you were younger and create something meaningful and something that had a purpose and something that you still remember and connect with and to. And that connection is something that we created without even meaning to create it. But there is such a strong thing there, and the songs are great, the content was great. So I can see why people connected with it. But to think that it stood the test of time is such a privilege and an honor for us. So that's probably the way that I would think about my legacy, from both the current Wiggles perspective, but also what I contributed to back then.
It's great that now the Wiggles have different age range, so you don't have to be like a different age to be a Wiggle. Like, for example,
Yeah,
like you were the youngest Wiggle when Sahai came around. She broke the record for youngest Wiggle.
she did indeed. Yeah. So I think it was last year, funnily enough. I think last year I was 3 times as old as Sahai.
Yeah,
She was 17 and I was like 51 or something like that. So I was 3 times her age. And when the Wiggles started when I was 19, I think Jeff was double my age. I think he was 38. I think there's 19 years between me and Jeff. So
yeah,
there's always been that kind of difference in age there. And I mean, what's Anthony now? Anthony must be 61 or something. I think he's 9 years older than me.
yeah.
Um, 61 or 62, and then you've got Sahai, who's like 18. So, yeah, look, I think one of the great things about children is that they don't really have a perception of age. Once you're
Yeah.
old, you're just old. It doesn't matter. You know, mum's old, grandma's old. You know, they all look
and
at, they look at age
and
in that
I'm
context.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, just that was it really. They just look at age in terms of, well, I'm young, but everybody else is old.
Yeah, like and I think it's really great that Lucia, Anthony's daughter, is now an official Wiggle, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's it's great handing on the baton to the junior family members. Yeah, so I think the Wiggles have got a long future ahead of them. You know, as you said, they're selling out concerts like that. Um, they're still creating great content. I don't see it ending for them soon. Even if I think Anthony were to make the decision to not perform anymore, I think he'd still be involved, and I think his involvement for a period of time would be crucial. But I think he is educating the new Wiggles and giving
Yeah.
them the skills and the knowledge of what needs to be done to carry it on beyond his time with the Wiggles if he were to ever step back fully. But I don't see that happening soon.
And apparently the Wiggles have gone experimental with their music. Like John's twin brother Lenny had released an album with you singing the song, but in like DJ style. And I'm like, wow, Wiggles DJ remix.
Yeah, it was pretty
Wow.
cool. I was glad I got to sing on that actually because they didn't actually have the old vocal takes from the original recordings.
No.
So they got me to sing on it again, which was really great. And I enjoyed that because it is different. And I think it was a big hit here in Australia. I don't know about the rest of the world, but it was it was number one on the dance charts here for a long time.
Yes. But I just want to say, Greg, to you and the other Wiggles, I know thanking you guys for being part of my childhood is something you guys hear all the time, but you guys made a significant greatness in my life. Um, it's great that we finally get to know each other personally, after the things that happened in my life, because, life
Mm.
is just full of unexpected things. Um, I never expected my short film to be loved by you guys. I think it's really great. I'm happy you guys liked it, and hopefully you're inspired by it. And as you
Yeah,
know, I'm always finding my own way. So
yeah.
I
I'm,
want to
I'm gonna I'm gonna share it again, Lamo, because I'm gonna share it with people because it is such a great piece of film, but the story too is just so powerful. So yeah, you did an amazing job with that.
and I'm currently working on another documentary too about autism with my Centennial College classmates. Sorry, Centennial College is the name of the college I go to. Um, but when it's done, I can definitely show you it.
Yeah, tag me in and I'll have a look, mate. Yeah, that'd be great.
Right. But anyways, Greg, is there anything you want to say before we end off this interview?
No, look, I think we've covered a lot there, Lamo. I think we've got a lot of messaging there for people about life and how to deal with things that come up in life and just being authentic to who you are and what you believe in. So yeah, good interview, mate. Well done.
Thank you. And before we go, my friend Michael's birthday is tomorrow, and I was wondering if you can give him a quick birthday greeting.
Yeah. How old's Michael turning?
He's turning 22, just like me.
Okay. Hey, Michael, it's Greg Page, the original Yellow Wiggle here, friend of Lamo. And I just want to wish you a very happy 22nd birthday, Michael. I hope you have a great day and make sure you have lots of fun and enjoy your special day. See ya.
Thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate you. I know you're very busy, but thank you so much for making time for this. It is so great to chat with you.
Yeah, no worries, Lamo. Glad we could have
I'm
the
gonna
chat, mate.